The suspect nods. The deputy questions her about Mark. She claims he is a friend. In June 2024, a young mother of two was busted at a Florida bank. After trying to cash a massive counterfeit check, she even wore medical scrubs, though she was no nurse. Man she only knew for 2 months hired her, gave her a written check, dressed her up, gave her Lee, and bolted the exact second that police arrived. Talk about a setup. The deputy asks about her actual job. She acts confused. She works as a server. He asks where she works right now. He hears sizzling noises. Where? She gives a vague answer. He presses for details. Just inside a park. The deputy asks why she is doing this. Why? She stumbles as she tries to explain her motive. She reveals she is facing immediate eviction with her 2 children and needed rent help. He promised to pay her rent if she would simply cash this bad check. It seemed like a quick fix. How long has she known him? Just for a couple of months. He highlights the massive risk she took. She risked her entire freedom with children at home. But she claims she was totally out of options. Desperate. Right. The officer asks for their ages. They are 5 and 2. Very young kids. He asks about her other jobs. She admits those hours are not enough. Working only 2 days a week. Sad. He tries to deflect by mentioning a job. This is a classic tactic to look busy. He claims he has an appointment at 4. A weak excuse. The deputy cuts straight to the fraud. The suspect tries to play completely dumb. Check. The officer presses him again. He denies knowing where it came from. Classic deflection. The deputy brings up his ridiculous outfit. A stethoscope. Despite working as a server, it points directly to a planned scam. He claims he was just following their orders. Unbelievable. Watch how the deputy traps his lie. By questioning employment, the suspect keeps repeating the same story, trying to shift blame. An actual restaurant server has no scrubs. It makes 0 sense. He agrees. Now he claims ignorance since leaving home, and that he was picked up blindly. Supposedly, it was just a quick errand. The deputy demands his identification. He gives his name, still rambling. They told him to put on the disguise. The deputy starts spelling, checking the exact letters, confirming spelling, but there is confusion, correcting it. The officer catches him texting on his phone. He claims he's calling his partner. The deputy knows that accomplice is gone. He immediately confiscates the mobile device. He questions if the contact is even real, or just generated by some burner app. The suspect insists it is genuine. Now he plays the desperate eviction card. Desperation builds as he claims he had no choice. He insists he does not know his accomplices, which is a highly unlikely setup story. The deputy remains entirely skeptical of this story. Today, you and I analyze a cash drop dispute. They are checking her story. The suspect immediately plays completely dumb. She claims they never even discussed what was inside. Her defensive body language speaks volumes here. The deputy points at the obvious flaw. For $1,000, she admits she knows nobody just hands that over. But she still insists she has no clue. She is clearly trying to minimize. Now the officer shifts to the male suspect. She quickly distances herself by mentioning her kids. Maurice. He wants her to state her status, confirming she is not detained. This is a smart tactical move here. Detained. Next, he digs for the driver's info. Another convenient memory lapse. Let's watch how she reacts right now. Maurice. She offers to pull up his location instead. Notice how the deputy monitors her phone use, searching through old text messages. He warns her not to tip him off, testing the nature of their relationship. No, just friends. Yeah. He presses for more details. She strongly denies any intimacy. He questions how she expected to get back. Apparently, the driver has already ditched her, telling her to walk over to a store. Family Dollar. That seems highly suspicious. Car running. She claims they were being followed earlier. Wait. Now let's scan the street for the vehicle. They spot a Nissan instead of the Mercedes. There is the actual suspect car. Okay. Is he? Did the driver run off? A witness points toward the nearby bushes, specifically where they tried to hide. He remarks on her unexpected behavior here. Apparently she was trying to play savior, over on far side. Exactly. Now the female suspect begins making excuses. She claims total ignorance about the situation, pointing out her layers to look innocent. She insists she was just a passenger, completely unaware of any crime. The officer reads back an incriminating text. They wanted to avoid police at all costs, because the vehicle was loaded with illegal contraband. So the deputy asks the obvious question. Naturally, she denies knowing about anything illegal, sticking to her pickup story. She stumbles, contradicting who was actually driving, tripping up. Let's look at how the officer handles this. A brief acquaintance. Yet she hopped right in anyway, despite having children at home. Without even questioning his true motives, they drove all the way to Deland, hours away from her residence. She corrects him about Apopka. He presses her on the massive distance, pointing out all the banks they bypassed to target this specific branch location. It makes her ignorance claim highly suspect. Unbelievable. You can hear her defense starting to crumble. She mumbles some excuse about fake cards. The investigator demands to know the source, but she immediately backpedals to protect herself, denying any role in the fraud scheme, trying to paint herself as an innocent bystander, just along for ride. The deputy tries to clarify the timeline. She corrects him again. Wait, insisting her home address. So he picked her up right there. Exactly. They had been hitting branches across the area. The suspect immediately backtracks. The officer drops a massive bombshell on her. This is the third forge check today from this target account, the victim's account, directly draining the victim's funds. This massive red flag alerted the bank teller. This looks like a coordinated multi-bank run, targeting another branch. It is their third bank hit today alone. The pieces are falling together. She denies everything instantly. The deputy asks about the other runs. Checks. She immediately shifts blame to her driver, claiming this is their first stop, but she was given a medical disguise. Officers remain highly skeptical. She claims she was surprised by the scrubs, clearly trying to minimize her own role in the scheme. She insists they bought her the disguise, directing deputies to evidence left in the car, hoping to prove she just got involved. The classic defense of ignorance. But her accomplice is already long gone. Indeed, the deputy asks about her children's safety. She has a strict deadline to collect them soon, but the harsh reality of arrest sets in now. She needs to arrange an alternative pickup. The officer points out the collateral damage here. Her kids suffer too. She finally asks the inevitable big question. The officer confirms passing a fake check is a serious crime, a major felony. Yet she still claims total innocence here. But she has already admitted to key facts, hoping honesty will get her out of handcuffs by cooperating with the police. But the video shows her walking in. The deputy starts digging into her story about working as a nurse. Now watch how she reacts to the bad check. It is fake. The police try to figure out if she acted alone, or if she is working with a partner. Let us see if these suspects are actually connected, linked. Naturally, she denies knowing the driver in the car, but witnesses saw her get dropped off by him. Driver, denied. She keeps pushing back. She insists she has absolutely no clue. Let's look at how widespread this scam really is. Fake banknotes are spreading fast. Counterfeit bonds. The deputy acknowledges. She shifts the blame. Police keep the conversation casual. The staff were already warned about these scams. They knew exactly what to look out for. The bad handwriting and the paper texture. The alert teller spotted it instantly. That is when the alarm was raised, dispatching the police. Right. They tried detaining him, but he fled. He took off in his vehicle. He just abandoned his partner in crime. Gone. That is when the second suspect walked in. Staff realized another bad check was incoming. They caught her trying the same scam. Now she claims her driver ditched her, left stranded at the scene. Typical. But they suspect different drivers. Now let's see if we can identify the car. The witness tries to remember the vehicle make, pointing out a highly distinct paint color, burnt orange. Hard to miss. Exactly. They are checking if it was an SUV or sedan, or a hatchback. The getaway vehicle. The deputy presses for more details. She hesitates, apologizing. She confirms the vehicle. It was an SUV. How old is it? He wants specifics. She recalls a modern touchscreen interior. A dead giveaway. The deputy nods. Cooperating does not guarantee her freedom. Giving up her handler might not save her. She realizes she is still going to jail, no matter what. The deputy points out court benefits. Panic is setting in, but arrest is still happening. He asks about the next steps of their plan. Where were they supposed to go next? Afterward, straight back to the car. Was she getting a ride back home? She confirms the plan. Does she even own a vehicle? Hers is parked at home. The deputy notes this. She seems highly stressed. Now watch as she calls her accomplice, blaming them for setting her up for arrest, for fraud. Accomplice realizes she is caught. She is actively detained. The voice on the phone asks who is there. With her? With the police. She explains how the scheme collapsed. Her bad disguise immediately raised suspicions. They used her real name on the documents, and she fed the staff their exact story, but it backfired, leading to her arrest. Naturally, her accomplice refuses to show up at the scene, but she demands they take some responsibility and help. Let's watch as this suspect begins to panic. He is clearly completely overwhelmed. He desperately begs his accomplice for advice. The partner tells him to lie to police, and blame everything on a bad check scheme. But his fate is sealed. The deputy makes the situation very clear. Now he tries to negotiate with his partner. Naturally, he threatens to drag him down with him, unless he surrenders right away. His partner promises he is returning. The officer wants to know his location, so he demands an ETA. But the partner is actually miles away. He is clearly stalling. The suspect demands a straight answer. The accomplice keeps making weak excuses, trying to deflect his own criminal actions, and pretending he did not know the law. He claims if he knew police were involved, he would have stayed to help him, but since he was left in dark, he just decided to run away. He acts completely blind to this, assuming that everything was perfectly fine. You and I see this deflection offer. He plays dumb to protect himself. He denies knowing anything about fraud. He pretends to be an innocent bystander. The suspect continues begging his partner, urging him to turn himself in. He realizes he is taking the blame, and desperately begs him to return. He asks again. The officer wants answers. The partner claims his phone navigation is down, after fleeing the scene. The deputy presses for an estimate. Now we see the reality sink in. He starts worrying about his children now. The gravity of arrest hits him hard, worrying about his family. This mess. She immediately starts rationalizing. She claims she only wanted cash for survival. She mentions her unpaid rent to gain sympathy, while admitting she knowingly passed a bad check. Completely fake. She strongly denies stealing any actual money. Instead, she shifts blame to an acquaintance, downplaying the forged documents she attempted to cash. Now facing major felony fraud charges, the harsh reality of arrest sets in, arranging emergency childcare from behind bars for her children. Devastating. The interrogation begins. The investigator demands her full attention, ensuring she understands the gravity of the interview, beginning the standard Miranda warning. Checking her comprehension. This is her crucial opportunity to stay silent. Crucial. Now the detective wants details. Tracking the timeline from the very start to see how she ended up here. She begins recounting the day. The detective pauses her there. He is testing for premeditation, asking if this was a surprise pickup or planned. Her answer suggests she was actually prepared. yet hesitant. The investigator remains highly skeptical. She admits knowing the bank was the target, but struggles to maintain her innocent story. Feigning confusion under pressure, the detective starts locking her down, confirming her active cooperation in the ride, still claiming she was a blind participant. Denying knowledge of the forged check, the officer rebuilds the timeline of events, showing she had opportunities to back up, pushing for details about her accomplices. Before she stepped inside that vehicle, she continues holding back, highlighting just how unbelievable her story really sounds, exposing the massive red flags she ignored. Rent. She nods. The detective asks when they forced her to wear the medical scrubs. She explains she was traveling from Apopka when they got close to interstate for near Altamonte. That is when they brought up buying actual medical uniforms to disguise her, even asking for her clothing size. Naturally, she says she was completely confused. She claims she had absolutely no idea what their actual plan really was. Then, they told her it looked more official. She kept questioning their bizarre demands. Ultimately, she just went along with it, obeying every single instruction they gave. Without questioning further, she was desperate and broke, needing to keep a roof over her child. The investigator nods. And so they went and purchased the outfits. Her associate paid before they drove off. The detective asks if Maurice paid. She claims the driver bought them. This prompts a question about who drove. She clarifies Maurice was just riding shotgun. The officer presses to find out who was actually behind the wheel. She insists she has absolutely no idea who he was, just Maurice's friend. The detective listens. She repeats that she did not know this mystery driver at all. She tries hard to distance herself. The officer acknowledges. He summarizes that Maurice was passenger, while this unknown friend drove. Correct. Then he asks her what happened next. After they ordered her to change clothes, they bought the scrubs to look professional, forcing her to wear them. She confesses. The deputy probes further. She claims she hesitated at first, but ultimately gave in near the bank. The deputy clarifies the exact location. She corrects him about the spot, pointing out a busy shopping plaza nearby. Seizes. The deputy names the area, confirming it was the Fair Wines Plaza. He notes it. Now she details the fraud plot. Her accomplice pressured her to change. She claims she was coerced into this, trying to minimize her own role. The investigator pieces her timeline back together. Pinpoint when the disguise order was given. Wearing a uniform makes scams highly believable. And he handwrote the check. The deputy verifies who forged it. She blames the driver. The driver is now a suspect. Suddenly her focus shifts to jail time. She asks if she can leave today, realizing she must wait for a judge first, before getting released. The officer answers her, then pivots. He points out she was totally abandoned. He left her to take the entire blame, despite promising to take the blame himself. A loyal partner would have surrendered immediately. Knowing she has 2 children home, reality is finally sinking in. The officer brings her back to details, forcing her to change in the bushes while forging the check. She admits she knew it was illegal. The deputy pushes for the exact instructions he gave her. Right before sending her into the bank, she recounts the script her partner fed her, acting as a pawn in his scheme. The investigator wants the specific cover story. She was told to pose as a caregiver, claiming she cared for an elderly relative. Details. Which is obviously a lie. No. She's asking to remove her fake nurse scrubs, claiming they're just too uncomfortable. The officer doesn't mind if she has clothes underneath, but they quickly change their minds about it. Officers decide to deal with it later, telling her to keep them on, diffusing her attempt to change. The detective presses her about the driver's instructions. He wanted her to pretend to be a caregiver, creating a fake story to cash the check. Now comes the key question about her knowledge. Did she know the document was completely forged before she stepped inside the branch? She claims she just didn't ask questions, describing how the organizer was juggling multiple phones, while she just sat in the back, doing whatever she was told to do, following directions blindly to get by, all for quick cash. Desperate to pay her overdue rent, the officer asks how they met. She only knew one of them briefly. The driver was just a mutual contact. She claims he's a stranger, asserting they only met that very morning. Police identify the suspect vehicle nearby. Yeah, now they bring up another car. She immediately plays dumb, but police have records of their calls, mentioning a specific street name. She begins to stammer. The officer lays out the stakes, giving her a harsh dose of reality, explaining the serious felony forgery charge. This is not a minor misdemeanor. It outweighs her family distractions, while she tries to focus on childcare, wondering who will collect her kids. The officer tells her to make arrangements, because she is definitely getting locked up. She admits she already broke the news, fully accepting her grim situation. The suspect is cooperating only due to family pressure. She is worried about her children. Indeed, listen, she tries to sound relatable. The investigator tracks down the paper trail of the forged $2,400 checks and more, already processed by banks. The officer asks what identification was actually used. At present, the suspect withdrew multiple stolen checks prior to this incident at this location, but these crimes happened across different banks in entirely different cities, specifically targeting areas where investigators trace previous transactions to Orlando. One check has the male suspect's name printed, the other names his female accomplice. The police compare the check sequences carefully to see if they match. The location is University Boulevard, which means Orlando police must take the lead, as it falls under their authority due to strict jurisdictional boundaries. Consequently, the officers share this crucial evidence to help build a stronger case against this coordinated crime ring. With 3 transactions, now we see how the system coordinates. The deputy will document everything to establish an official police report and then share it with the other agency to create a clear connection. This is clearly an organized fraud operation conducted by the same group of suspects, meaning it may escalate to state investigators because the fraud spans multiple counties, crossing normal district borders, linking these crimes together. But there is more. This vehicle ties them in. Exactly. The deputy lays out the cold facts. The detective is laying it all out right now. He knows these crimes are connected, completely connected. The suspect immediately tries to deny any involvement, defensively, but the officer points out a key detail. The phone calls. The suspect stammers. Carrying multiple phones is a classic red flag. To accomplices entering the bank together, that is rarely a random event during a heist. It is to coordinate it. Pure orchestration. They operated in sync. Still, she claims she did not recognize them personally. The officer counters her weak excuse. She is trying to distance herself from them, keeping her distance. The investigator suggests she was kept in the dark, a common tactic used on low-level lookouts. They ditched her the moment things went south, leaving her to take the fall. Notice how her story starts to crumble here, mentioning that specific street name. Suspicious. Exactly. That slip of the tongue. She claims she has no idea how he knew, deflecting custody of the information. But the timing of their exit is damning. They bolted as the sirens neared, leaving her to hold the bag. Trapped. She reveals they hit another TD Bank branch first. This timeline paints a picture of a robbery spree. The same suspect was spotted at both locations. She admits she recognized him immediately at the second bank, tracking the exact same suspect across town. Now the investigator presses her on the coincidence. It is too perfect to be random. She is clearly feeling the pressure of the interrogation. The officer appeals to her common sense. He is giving her an out to cooperate, without labeling her as the criminal mastermind. The deputy is pressing him to be realistic here. He asks him to use some common sense. Let's look at the suspect's claim to completely unrelated suspects committing fraud. The exact same scam across different counties, yet they both try to flee simultaneously. The officer asks if that's coincidence. The suspect tries to deflect, claiming he had no idea. This is a classic denial tactic, but the deputy is focusing on getting names. He wants the identities of the accomplices, specifically the driver, whom he calls Morris, behind the wheel. The suspect insists he only knows this one guy who might return. He claims the driver wasn't the vehicle owner, pretending he's lost. He's trying hard to protect his partner. But watch how the officer stays ahead. He predicted his story. The officer knew they would try to meet up at a nearby store. Their text messages prove the connection. The deputy asks if the suspect is returning to the scene. He is pressing for his current whereabouts. The suspect explains the driver is searching for an escape route. He cannot return. He claims his partner is stuck somewhere else. The suspect attempts to paint a picture of confusion, suggesting the driver wants to avoid bringing that orange SUV back here. It's a clumsy attempt at misdirection. He says the driver is trying to ditch the vehicle and return on foot somehow. Still, he maintains he has no names. The officer nods. Then, the deputy makes a tactical move. He asks the suspect for a sworn statement to document this highly suspicious story about meeting a stranger 2 months prior, who suddenly picked him up this morning. Let's look at how the detective lays out the evidence. He wants her to detail the target banks and disguises. Now comes the push for a formal confession. He asks her to put everything in writing. This is a crucial step for the prosecution. The suspect immediately hesitates, feeling trapped. Detectives cannot promise charges will just vanish, but they can note her cooperation for the prosecutor. Cooperation always carries weight. She knows she still faces prison. He emphasizes the judge's perspective. She tries to defend her compliance so far. During this interview, the officer uses validation to keep her cooperative. He needs that physical signature on the document. He makes sure no false promises are made. Legally, she is still in deep trouble. There is no quick way out. Then he pivots to a powerful persuasion technique. He frames her choice in front of a jury. He asks, is she a dangerous mastermind or a victim? Just a struggling mother trying to survive. This appeals directly to her maternal instincts. It is a highly effective interrogation tactic. He lets her choose her own narrative. The jury will decide her ultimate fate. She chooses truth. He capitalizes on her agreement to write the truth and asks her to swear to it. Success. The officer leaves to grab the official form. Now, a second officer offers some solid advice, warning her to completely cut off the mastermind. Suspects often struggle with the idea of snitching. The officer urges her to move on entirely, today, and never look back. Right. He asks her age, finding she is 24. He tries to connect with her on a personal level. Though he lacks children, his wife is pregnant. He shows empathy while maintaining his professional boundaries. In this moment, here, she starts opening up about her heavy burden. She explains that she is completely on her own. For 2 months, she has been entirely stuck. She barely scraped by, paying May rent late. Eviction was looming right over her head. Even after paying, the next cycle hits her immediately. Another eviction threat is already waiting. The officer tries to clarify her currently set up. She confirms she is trapped in a stressful loop. Landlords typically enforce strict late payment rules. She explains the 30-day grace period they give. But once those 30 days pass, pressure builds. Miss that deadline, and the legal threat begins. Landlords will file for eviction in court. The officer follows her logic closely. Paying stops the court action, but temporarily. Then the cycle repeats the very next month. Constant pressure. The landlord sends out the official notices. She has only until July 7th. The deputy asks about the cost. With accumulated fees, the total is staggering. $2,000. What is the base rent? $1,750 for a simple two-bedroom apartment. Utilities are included, even electricity. The officer digs deeper into her support system, asking if the father provides any help. Do they share kids? Both children are from the same father. He offers zero support, completely absent. The officer wants to clarify the relationship timeline. He references her current year relationship. She explains, her past relationship was never stable or long-term. She simply fell pregnant after brief hookups. Pregnancy. The deputy understands. No real relationship. He gets the full picture now. Now the officer prepares to offer some constructive advice. The officer hands over the official form. He directs the suspect to write down everything. Every single detail of the day. This is a standard police investigation procedure. Chronological accounts are crucial for prosecutors. Officers need to lock down their story immediately. This prevents suspects from changing details later. The investigator hands over an extra sheet of paper, expecting a long, detailed account of the day. Now watch as the officer prompts her. He wants specifics on their entire route, and the getaway car used in the crime. He specifically mentions a luxury vehicle seen earlier, but she immediately backtracks on the vehicle details. She only saw the suspect. The officer locks in that admission. He wants that written down on paper. Also, the suspicious bank bags. But her story is starting to unravel. She begins playing dumb about her current location. Pretending she does not know her location. This is a common tactic to avoid conspiracy charges. She paints herself as an innocent passenger. Right. Notice how she claims total ignorance of the area. Classic defense. The deputy remains calm and professional. He just wants her statement completed. He even offers more pages for her story. Knowing she has a lot of explaining to do. He is playing along. Now the deputy makes a tactical decision. He secures her belongings in the cruiser's trunk. Preparing her for a long wait inside his vehicle. She is not under arrest yet. Understandable. Because she is cooperating, he treats her kindly. Offering her rare courtesy in this situation. Very rare. She insists she is telling the absolute truth. The law says otherwise. Let's unpack the specific charge here. This means passing off fake checks. This serious felony requires two elements. Here, she presents a document that she clearly knows is completely fake, intending to defraud. That knowledge element is where things get really complicated. She first claimed she had no idea the check was fraudulent, but then she admitted she suspected it was fake even before stepping inside. That crucial admission basically seals her fate here. Willful ignorance is legally identical to actual guilt under Florida law. A suspect who avoids confirming what they already suspect cannot simply plead ignorance. The legal system calls this conscious avoidance. Under Florida law 777, accomplices are equally liable, meaning you do not have to write the check to be charged with presenting it. Just showing up and handing it over is enough. She did exactly that. Now, the officer detains her without a formal arrest. That is perfectly legal. Terry versus Ohio from 1968 allows brief investigative stops when an officer suspects active or imminent criminal behavior. This bank teller's alert absolutely clears that legal bar. Miranda rights were read around 13 minutes and 25 seconds in. Even after that, she kept talking. Her choice, but Miranda does not silence suspects. It informs them. Every word she mutters after this is completely admissible. Her statements before Miranda are also fair game. The initial chat was completely voluntary inside a non-custodial setting, just a chat, not a formal police interrogation. Beckwith versus United States from 1976 proves that these voluntary statements made before custody do not require any Miranda warnings. This was not an isolated case. This exact account had already been hit 3 times that day across different jurisdictions. The first 2, they cashed dirty checks in Orlando. This branch was target number 3, all connected to the same check fraud ring. Now, this level of scam attracts a statewide prosecutor in Florida since the crimes cross county lines and involve multiple suspects. The state attorney gets the jurisdiction to combine cases instead of leaving them scattered. This suspect sang immediately. Notice how she gave up the names, getaway cars, and even where her disguise was bought, walkthrough details, and a full signed confession. That is huge for her. Florida courts reward snitching as a major mitigating factor. That's why she ended up with a probation deal, no real jail if she stays clean for 24 months. This falls under Florida statute -148.01, which gives first-time offenders a break if they cooperate fully and aren't career criminals. Now let's grade the cop. B+. He mapped the fraud network across different departments, timing his Miranda rights just right, and got that written confession through clean. Police interrogation tactics, no empty promises or threats, solid police work on a ticking clock. Our suspect, she gets a B. She walked inside carrying check she knew was highly suspicious, wearing a nurse outfit to fool them. That's the crime, but her cooperation was genuine, raw, and complete. But that doesn't erase her actions. Look at what we can learn here. Organizers using a money mule to hide themselves is a classic fraud tactic, but prosecutors know this. They understand that a mule's info on the bosses is worth far more than a minor arrest, than just convicting a single money mule. If you are ever pitched an arrangement like this, cashing a check for cash, no questions asked, that is no job. It is a criminal conspiracy with your name stamped on the check while someone else has their hands on the wheel. If you find yourself stuck inside the bank, the math changes completely. Cooperating right now is the single move that saves your entire future, but lying to minimize your charges always backfires. Getting the truth down is leverage for you, not against you. For cops, as we both know, the real target is not the mule, it is the network. This officer understood that, which is why this questioning became an intelligence hunt, not just a routine booking. That is the smart move. Tell us what you and I should break down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and do not forget to visit our channel for more intense police bodycam footage and courtroom drama. We appreciate your support. Goodbye.